every once in a while, we like to follow up with calls that we've had in the past, first of all, just out of personal curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, where did this go? Was our advice taken? If it was taken, was it taken in whole or part? And we like to call these things house calls for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a fuller brush man. For those people that don't know what a fuller brush man is, it's a guy that used to come to your house.
You know, it's one of those jobs I thought I'd like to do that for a day, just to try what it's like being a fuller brush man. It's a different era, but
So a fuller brush man is a man that would come to your house and sell brushes.
and that sounds quite sexist. Fuller, but it could be a fuller brush female.
Okay, but very similar to how Amazon works today. But we like to follow up with these calls, and today we're going to talk to Brian.
That's right. We spoke to Brian last February, and he was in an interesting situation where you've got a parent is trying to do something to make everything even, and Brian's life was quite. Anyway, listen to the clip, and then we'll have a conversation with Brian. Have you owned a home in the past?
No, I've just rented just to keep my housing costs as low as possible so I can put away. You know, eventually I got to a good emergency savings and then eventually good 401k. And by then houses were rather expensive, and I'm not married, no kids. And then recently I like to travel. So I'm out of the country. Could be 3 to 6 months a year.
That changes things.
Yeah.
And so when you move out of the country, do you keep your rental or do you give it up?
Last time I kept it for about 3 months, but this time I'm thinking it's time to move on anyway, and I'm going to get rid of it.
You're
Be on the
gainfully
road.
employed?
Yes, I can work remote, and I'm able to kind of do
People,
both.
listen, I don't get this lifestyle.
Oh, no. Where did I go wrong?
I know.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So you sit down on an island and you actually have like a Photoshop bookshelf behind you when there's really a
And
beach?
Brian, you said you're 37?
38.
38.
38,
And what's your income ballpark from your employment?
150,000.
And what do you have saved?
Everything.
Everything 430,000, 300 of which is retirement tax advantage, and the rest is money market and index funds.
I hear that you don't want to buy a home.
Yeah, why would you want to buy a home?
Yeah, I don't. So it's like, do I convince my dad that, you know, this is my strategy? I certainly appreciate the funds, and my thought would be to invest most of the money into VTI and maybe take those
how old is
small
your dad?
chunks to fund travel. He's 74, and they're pretty well set for their retirement.
They're not
I'm
doing this for
taking
estate
away.
tax purposes then.
They want to even out.
No.
They gifted their other
Yeah,
two
they
kids.
want to give to. And what do you think of getting a rental home?
You know, I think it's kind of like I work in real estate as an accountant, and it's kind of like chefs in restaurants. They don't cook all day and then go home and make elaborate meals. And I think when I get home, I'm just tired of looking at real estate, and I prefer, you know, my strategy is to focus on my time on my career, travel, and then passive investing versus most people I talk to don't like being a landlord.
Yeah, I don't like being a landlord.
I could live with it.
And then the house, I mean, at my index funds, I don't have to put
No, I get it.
furniture in them. I
You know,
don't
it's
have
funny.
to pay
So I'm gonna tell you- so-
property tax.
So 2 days ago, I'm on a walk with my wife, and I said to her, actually, I'm on a walk with my wife, and I got a text from a property manager. Hey, can you please call me? And I, like, is the house on fire? Right. And I text back, and the washer was broken, and he thought it's time to get a new washer and dryer.
Your mutual fund never calls you.
I said
Right.
to my wife, and it's been a good investment but I said to my wife, I really love equities. And I said, here's the conversation we had.
You had this conversation with your wife on a walk.
She barely tolerated it, but yes. I was
How
trying
romantic.
No, well, and I said that one of the benefits about getting a little older, you're still quite young. You didn't remember the pain of the financial crisis. One of the benefits of getting older, you've lived through all these cycles. and you see that companies, the values of companies continue to grow. And when you look over the long-term return, you mentioned VTI, the total stock market index, you look at the long-term return of stocks, it's about 6 to 7 percentage points above that of the rate of inflation. It's hard to replicate that in any other asset class.
It is.
Real estate, rental, anything.
It is.
And so, and it never calls you and says the washer's
And there's no
broken.
leverage in there, so the downside risk isn't as great.
Correct.
So, just tell your, yeah.
I would have a conversation. I'd have a conversation with your dad and say, "Look, my lifestyle's a little unconventional.
But I'm happy. I'm assuming you're happy.
I would love to take these dollars and invest them for the long term for my own financial security, just like my brother's financial, but in a slightly different way."
And I'd take it one step further. I would take a clip of this show and say, hey, I talked to these guys that I listened to their podcast, and this is what they said. And quite frankly, your dad may know. And by the way, that's the only way we're gaining listeners is one at a time. Brian, of these places you've traveled and worked, what was your favorite?
Oh, recently it would probably be Malaga, Spain, although I almost don't want people to find out about it, but that was really...
Is that
really
the southern
good.
tip?
Yeah, that's in the southern tip. You can take a ferry to Africa just about, but yeah, great weather, has the old town, has the beach. Got
I've actually
everything.
been to Malaga.
All right, second favor.
Second favorite.
Well, where do you plan on going next?
Lisbon was quite good.
I like
Lisbon's a
Lisbon.
great
I've never
city.
been to Lisbon.
That's
I
getting
like
a little overcrowded, but it was quite
it's
good.
yeah, it's quite
And
the
next,
American.
Next stop's Italy.
So, Brian, you're with us now, right?
Yes,
And are you overseas as we speak?
I am.
And out of curiosity, are you comfortable sharing where you're at?
Sure. I'm in northern Italy in Liguria in the Italian Riviera, in a small Italian seaside village.
Yeah.
That does sound pretty nice.
I was in Puglia a couple of weeks ago. In what a
Of course you were.
we were yeah, but I don't live,
With the Truly.
I don't live like Brian does. So anyway,
You're like a week and a half.
I know.
Once a year.
Yeah, exactly. So I assume you're still gainfully employed.
I am. Yeah. So I've been here for a month, and it's working out well. And I took your advice.
Yeah, so
and
how'd it go?
Yeah, it went good. I simply just shared the podcast with both of my parents, and Dad came around pretty quick saying, you're right. This sounds like it's the right thing for you to do, and it's an investment style that works for you, and plus you got your travel lifestyle. And I think he asked, that was the first comment, and the second comment was something about, are you going to get the tattoo on your foot? Because I think you guys said something about your son
Okay.
has a send it tattoo on his
I'm
foot.
still waiting
I
for my
just
send
got-
it, but I have not sent it yet.
So this is a way that we could gain listeners to the podcast, Scott. Is we could have
So did they give you the cash?
I got $50,000 right before I left, which they had already sort of had in the works. I didn't really know. And then a bit more may come in January, so they can put it in a different tax year. And so I took the 50, and I immediately put 15 in a total stock market index fund, and then I'm sitting on 35 left over from that because I kind of took. I had a lot of changes going on. I was moving out of the apartment. The apartment's gone now. I have no
good.
costs back home. And I know when you talk to guests and they have it's not exactly the same, but when someone has an inheritance, you tell them don't do anything straight away while you're, going through
it's a little
grief
different
or change or a life change. And so
This is a little different situation. We don't, I
a little
mean,
different, yeah. But so I'm sitting on now. I guess the follow-up question would be: I'm sitting on $100,000 in cash in a high-yield money market, and I probably just need to pull the trigger.
You know what you need to do. You don't need us to answer the question. You're just nervous
Brian,
about
there's
doing
never.
it.
It's always hard to invest because if the markets are up, you're like, man, it's on a tear right now. I'm going to wait until there's a pullback. And when the markets are going down, you're like, well, I don't want to invest right now. Things are going down. I'm going to wait until things are a little lower.
But you know what to do. You're just nervous about doing it. Just do it.
Okay.
Over the long term, it's not going to make. Look, who
Who
knows a year from now?
or 2 years or 3 years. But what we do know is you're how old?
37,
35?
6?
Right?
38.
38? Okay.
Yeah, you've got a long time. So just keep whatever liquid cash you need in the high yield, but that should not look. You laid out in that call we had a few months ago. You laid out your thesis, and now you've actually veered from it.
That's right. Human nature.
Right? You told us what you should do, and then when you actually came time to do it, you didn't do it.
I parked in it, but yeah, now I gotta go.
Yeah, go do it. Go
It's
do
not
it.
because it's not even the whole amount. It's the majority is coming
Yeah,
next year in
yeah.
the future.
And so you know what to do. I have a couple personal questions for you. What after Italy? Where? Do you know?
I have no plan. I just kind of let things evolve or develop and ask people where to go. I wrote down Puglia when you said it a second ago.
Yeah.
And, I do have for a couple weeks.
And when you travel like this, do you stay in an Airbnb or do you rent a room or?
Yeah, I'm in an Airbnb most of the time, and I actually made a little deal on this one. I rented it for a week, and then I met the landlord, and then once I tested the internet, and I had to do a lot of work this week, so I wanted to stay put for a while, and then I offered cash for an extra week, and it was a pretty good price on the cash price.
Anyway, hey, thank you for doing this house call, the
appreciate it.
follow up. Appreciate it, and continue enjoying. This guy's living life.
Yeah, and I think there's two. I appreciate the call, Brian. There's a couple takeaways from this. One is if you're planning on leaving money to your kids, like the world's different today.
It is, and sometimes better from a warm hand than a cold heart.
Okay.
I had a client actually say that to me, and then gifted 3 of his children money.